The joke that changed everything. The cave was older than memory. Its walls were covered in strange carvings, symbols that no human eye could fully understand. Dust hung in the air like a heavy curtain, and the only sound was the echo of their own footsteps. A group of 5 explorers walked inside, their flashlights sweeping across the stone. They had traveled far into the desert, chasing rumors of an alien ruin hidden under the sands. Most of them came with serious faces, but one of them, Daniel, was different. Daniel was the kind of man who never took things too seriously. He joked. When things were tense, he laughed when others were afraid. Some called him brave, others called him foolish. The air grew colder as they moved deeper. Their leader, Sarah, checked her scanner. The machine gave out a steady beep, picking up energy signals from inside the ruins. "There's something here," she said, her voice low. "Something alive, or at least still active." They turned a corner, and there it was, a statue. It stood in the center of a wide chamber, taller than any of them, carved from a black stone that seemed to drink the light. The figure looked almost human, but not quite. Its face was longer, the eyes too large, the arms too thin. It wore strange armor, decorated with spirals and stars. Its lips were frozen in a straight line, as if hiding a secret. The group stared at it in silence. "Creepy," whispered Jacob, the youngest of the team. "Beautiful," said Elena, the scientist, running her hand along the wall to study the carvings. But Daniel only smirked. "Oh, come on," he said, breaking the silence. "It's just a rock." Sarah frowned. "Don't touch it." Daniel grinned wider. "What? Afraid it'll bite me?" He stepped closer, ignoring the warnings. "Relax. It's been standing here for 1,000 years, maybe more. If it wanted to do something, it would have done it already." The others watched nervously as he stood before the statue. Its stone eyes seemed to stare right back at him, unblinking, heavy with judgment. Daniel chuckled. "Hey, watch this, for history." And before anyone could stop him, he leaned forward and pressed his lips against the cold stone cheek. Everyone gasped. "Daniel!" Sarah shouted. "What the hell are you doing?" He pulled back, laughing. "What? It's just a joke." He wiped his mouth. "See? Nothing happened. Still just a statue." But then, the air shifted. The ground under their feet gave a faint tremble. The chamber grew colder, so cold their breath turned white. A faint hum filled the air, low at first, then rising, like a song from deep inside the stone. Daniel froze, his laughter dying in his throat. The statue's eyes glowed, not a flicker, not a trick of the light. They glowed with a burning, unnatural fire. Golden light poured from the cracks of the stone face, and the chamber shook as if the entire ruin had awakened. The explorers backed away, their hearts pounding. Elena dropped her scanner, the sound echoing like thunder. The statue's mouth moved. The stone lips cracked, grinding like metal against metal, and then, in a voice that was not human, deep and heavy like the earth itself, it spoke. "You doomed your species." The words rolled through the chamber, bouncing off the walls, crawling into their ears and down into their bones. The team froze. No one moved. No one breathed. Daniel's face turned pale. Did it just—" "Yes," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. It spoke. The statue's eyes dimmed, its mouth sealing again as if it had never moved. Silence returned, heavy and crushing. The explorers stood in a circle around it, staring with wide eyes. Their hearts thundered in their chests. Jacob was the first to break. We should leave, now." But the exit behind them rumbled, dust falling from the ceiling. The ruin itself seemed alive, awake, and angry. Daniel tried to laugh again, but his voice cracked. "It was just a joke," he said weakly. It can't be real." Sarah turned to him, her eyes filled with fire. "You idiot. You don't joke with something like this. You touched it. You woke it." Elena knelt and touched the carvings on the floor. Her hands shook. These symbols, they're warnings. Warnings written by whoever built this place. She looked up at the others, her face pale. They say, "Never disturb the watcher." The chamber groaned, as if the ruin itself agreed. Daniel's hands trembled now. For the first time in his life, he didn't have a joke. He looked at the statue's silent face, its still glowing eyes burned into his mind. The words echoed inside him again. "You doomed your species." He had thought it was only a laugh, only a dare, only a joke. But the joke had become something else. Something darker. And deep in the silence of the alien ruin, every single one of them felt the same cold truth. This was only the beginning, the forgotten warning. The chamber was silent again, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of something waiting. The explorers stood frozen, their flashlights trembling in their hands. Every breath echoed too loudly. Every heartbeat felt like it could wake the stone once more. Daniel the Joker stared at the statue with wide eyes. His lips were still cold from the kiss, but now they burned with guilt. He wanted to laugh, to say something clever, but the words from the statue still haunted his ears. "You doomed your species." Sarah was the first to move. She grabbed Daniel by the arm and shook him hard. "Do you realize what you've done?" she hissed. Her face was pale, but her voice was fire. "It was just," Daniel began. "Not a joke," she cut him off. "Nothing here is a joke." Elena, kneeling on the floor, brushed dust from the carvings. Her flashlight caught the lines on the stone. Spirals, stars and shapes of creatures that looked like nightmares. The carvings weren't random. They were a story. "Look at this," Elena whispered, her voice shaking. The others gathered around. The carvings told of something ancient. Giant beings falling from the sky, fire raining across worlds, shadows spreading like sickness. And in the center, statues like the one before them stood guard, holding back the darkness. "These aren't decorations," Elena said. "They're warnings. Whoever built this place. They were trying to tell us something." Jacob swallowed hard. His voice cracked. "Warnings about what?" She traced her fingers across the alien script, half decoded, by her scanner. It says, "Do not wake the watcher. The watcher holds the seal. The seal holds the swarm." The word swarm made the room feel colder. Sarah's jaw tightened. The statue wasn't a statue. It was a guard. And you... She glared at Daniel. "You woke it." Daniel's throat went dry. He forced a smile, but it was weak, broken. "Okay, fine," it spoke. "Maybe it's some old alien recording, right? Like a hologram. It doesn't mean anything." The floor shook. Dust rained down from the ceiling. Somewhere in the ruins, deep below, something heavy moved. The sound carried through the walls like a heartbeat. Thump. 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 Jacob's flashlight flickered. "Tell me that's not the swarm." Elena's scanner screamed to life, alarms flashing red. "Energy spike," she cried. "Massive energy spike, like a signal." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Signal to what?" Elena's face turned white. "Signal to space." The chamber shook again, harder this time. The walls seemed to groan, as if alive. Carvings lit up with faint blue light, symbols glowing like veins. The ruin was waking, all of it, piece by piece. Suddenly, the exit tunnel behind them began to close. The stone shifted like liquid, sealing itself with grinding echoes. They were trapped. Jacob screamed. "It's sealing us in!" He rushed forward, pounding on the stone, but it was solid, immovable. Sarah pulled him back. "Stop! You'll only waste your strength." The hum in the chamber grew louder, almost like a voice chanting in a language older than Earth. The statue's eyes flickered again, but it did not move. Its gaze, however, was alive, as if it was watching them with silent judgment. Daniel backed away, his heart racing. His voice trembled. "This can't be real. This can't be happening." Elena grabbed his arm, her nails digging into his skin. "It is happening. You woke something that was never meant to wake." The carvings on the walls shifted, glowing brighter. They now showed something new. Earth, a planet surrounded by stars, and then darkness spreading across it like fire consuming paper. Sarah's voice broke through the fear. This place was a prison. The statue wasn't just guarding, it was holding the seal. And when you kissed it, you broke it. Daniel shook his head violently. No, that's insane. One kiss can't doom Earth. That's ridiculous. But then the statue's mouth cracked open once more. The same deep, heavy voice filled the chamber, vibrating in their bones. The swarm is coming. They will hear the call. They will find your world. The lights in the chamber went black. For a moment they were blind. Only the sound of their own panicked breathing filled the darkness. Then, whispers. Soft, slithering whispers. Not from one voice, but from many. They came from the walls, the floor, the air itself. Words they could not understand, yet words that crawled into their minds. Jacob screamed. He swore he felt cold hands brush against his arm in the dark. He fired his rifle blindly, the flash lighting the chamber for only a second. And in that flash, shadows moved. Not statues, not carvings, shadows with eyes. When the light faded, the whispers grew louder. Sarah's voice cut through the panic. Weapons ready, stay close. Elena's hands shook as she clutched her scanner. The swarm isn't here yet. These are only fragments, echoes left in the prison. But when the real swarm arrives, her voice trailed off. She didn't need to finish. They all understood. Daniel stood trembling, his heart heavy with guilt. The words of the statue echoed inside him like poison. You doomed your species. He wanted to believe it wasn't true. He wanted to believe it was still just a joke. But the ruin was alive. The warnings were real. And somewhere in the dark, something was waking up. And for the first time, Daniel realized the joke wasn't funny anymore. This was a curse. A curse on him. A curse on all of them. A curse on Earth itself. And there was no taking it back. Shadows move. The ruin was no longer silent. The walls hummed with alien energy, pulsing like the heartbeat of some buried monster. Blue veins of light crawled across the carvings, feeding power into the statue that stood in the chamber's center. The explorers felt it in their bones, a vibration that made their teeth ache and their stomachs twist. Sarah raised her rifle, scanning the shadows. Her voice was sharp but low. Stay close, don't separate. But the shadows had other plans. The flicker of their flashlights made the chamber look alive. Figures seemed to lean from the walls, reaching with long fingers that disappeared when the light passed over them. The whispers grew louder, curling around their ears, pressing into their minds. Jacob's hands shook so badly that the beam of his flashlight danced wildly. They're moving, he stammered. I swear the shadows are moving. They're just tricks, Daniel tried to say, but his voice broke halfway. His words didn't sound like jokes anymore. They sounded like lies he told himself to. Stay sane. Then the floor shuddered. A deep crack ran across the chamber, splitting the stone. A section of the wall shifted as though it were breathing. And from the crack, something crawled. It was blacker than shadow, a thing of smoke and ash, shaped almost like a man but stretched too thin, too tall. Its face was a blur, but two white eyes burned within. It stepped forward soundlessly, and when it opened its mouth, no sound came, only more whispers that slid into their skulls like knives. Jacob screamed and fired. The bullets tore through the creature, but it didn't bleed. It didn't fall. It simply dissolved into smoke and reformed behind him. Behind. You, Sarah shouted. Jacob spun too late. The shadow's hands, long and clawed, wrapped around him. His body jerked as if 1,000 voices were crawling through his veins. His scream cut off like a snuffed flame, and then he was gone. Not dead, not alive. Simply gone. His flashlight hit the floor with a clatter, the beam rolling across the stone. Elena gasped, her face pale. It took him. Oh God, it took him. Sarah gritted her teeth, pulling Elena back. Stay calm. They want us to panic. Daniel staggered backward, his stomach turning. He had known Jacob since they were kids, and now Jacob was nothing. Erased. The guilt crushed him. The statue's voice echoed again, deep and cruel. One lost. More to follow. Until the swarm arrives. The shadows stirred, crawling along the walls like liquid night. Dozens of white eyes blinked open in the darkness. "We can't fight them," Elena said, her voice cracking. "They're not real. Not flesh. They're pieces of the swarm's mind, fragments leaking through the broken seal." Sarah fired at one of the creatures anyway, forcing it back into smoke. "Real enough to kill us." "No," Elena whispered. "Not kill. Take." Her words hung heavy. The ruins groaned again, stone sliding against stone. A tunnel at the far end of the chamber cracked open, leading deeper into the dark. Blue light bled from it, pulsing like a beacon. Sarah's eyes narrowed. "That's our way out." "Out?" Daniel's laugh was hollow. "Deeper into this nightmare?" "Better than waiting here to be swallowed," Sarah snapped. "Move!" They ran. Their boots pounded across the shifting stone, shadows clawing at their heels. Daniel felt cold fingers brush his back, but when he turned, there was nothing. The whispers screamed inside his head, promising things he didn't want to understand. Tunnel twisted unnaturally, walls moving as if the ruin itself was rearranging to trap them. Their flashlights flickered, sometimes showing stone, sometimes showing endless black void. At one turn, Elena screamed. A shadow loomed before her, taller than the rest, its face splitting open into a mouth too wide, too endless. She raised her scanner like a weapon, and it sparked with sudden alien light, blasting the creature back. The scanner hissed and died in her hands. She stared at it, shocked. It responded to them, like it was part of their system. Sarah pulled her forward. "Figure it out later. Run!" They pushed deeper until the tunnel spat them into a smaller chamber. This one was different. The carvings on the walls weren't warnings, they were stars. Thousands of stars etched into the stone. In the center stood another statue, smaller, holding something like a tablet. Elena rushed to it, desperate. She brushed the dust away. Alien. Words glowed faintly. Her eyes darted over them, her breath catching. It says, "The Watchers guard the locks. 7 seals across 7 worlds. If one breaks, the swarm will awaken." Daniel's stomach dropped. 7 seals? Then they're not all here, Elena whispered. "This ruin is just one of them, and you." She turned on Daniel, tears in her eyes, fury in her voice. "You broke it." The chamber trembled again, harder than before. Cracks split the floor, spilling out streams of blue fire. The shadows screamed louder, their whispers turning to shrieks. Sarah raised her rifle, sweat dripping down her face. "We need to get back to the ship, now. We warn Earth, we tell them what's coming." The statue's eyes glowed once more. Its mouth opened. There is no escape. The swarm has heard. They are coming. The chamber collapsed. Stone rained down, splitting the ground. A massive crack opened beneath them, leading into endless black. Daniel slipped, nearly falling before. Sarah caught his arm. The shadows swarmed closer, eyes glowing in the dark like stars of death. Elena screamed as one grabbed her leg. She kicked, desperate, tears streaming down her face. "Help me!" Daniel lunged forward, grabbing her arm, pulling with all his strength. He felt the cold of the shadow burning into his skin, but he held on, screaming in rage and fear. Sarah fired wildly, the gunshots deafening, forcing the shadows back just long enough for Elena to break free. They scrambled toward another crack in the wall that opened like a door, light spilling through it. They didn't know if it was escape or another trap, but it was their only chance. As they ran, Daniel looked back one last time. The first statue still stood, its glowing eyes locked on him, and in his mind, he heard the words again. "You doomed your species." But this time he could swear the voice was laughing. The alien truth. The new chamber closed behind them with a sound like stone grinding against stone. For a moment the explorers stood in silence, panting, their faces pale with terror. Their bodies shook. not just from exhaustion, but from something deeper, the kind of fear that crawled into the soul and refused to leave. The chamber was different from the others. It was vast, a dome stretching far above them, the ceiling painted with stars. Strange glowing constellations drifted across the stone, moving slowly, as if alive. In the center of the floor was a massive circle carved with alien runes, and at its edge stood yet another statue, taller, grander, and crowned, with jagged spikes. Elena fell to her knees before the carvings. Her hands shook as she brushed away the dust, the glowing script burning brighter as her scanner hummed to life. This is it. This is their record, their truth. Sarah kept her rifle raised, her eyes scanning the shifting shadows. The whispers had not stopped. They crawled along the walls, softer now but still there, like a chorus waiting for its cue. "Make it quick," she said sharply. "We don't have time." Elena's eyes raced over the alien words. She translated, half speaking to herself, half to the group. Long ago the swarm fell upon the stars. They were not life, but hunger. A living shadow. They devoured world after world. No army could stop them. No weapon could kill them. They consumed suns. They drank planets dry. Her voice trembled as she continued. The Watchers were born from fire to fight them. 7 Watchers, each placed on a world, each holding a seal. Together, the seals trapped the swarm outside of this galaxy. They could not enter again, unless one seal broke. Her voice cracked, and her eyes flicked toward Daniel. "You didn't just wake the statue, you broke the seal." Daniel's throat tightened. He wanted to deny it, to scream that it wasn't his fault. But the truth pressed down on him heavier than the stone ceiling. The carvings on the wall shifted, glowing brighter. They showed an image of Earth, not as it was now, but thousands of years ago. Humanity had only just begun to walk upright, yet above them, in the stars, a war raged. Alien fleets fell in fire. Entire planets turned black. The swarm spread like ink spilled across the night sky, and then the Watchers appeared. Giant figures carved in radiant stone, wielding light that split the darkness. They forced the swarm back, locking it behind 7 seals. But one image made Elena gasp. Among the carvings of alien worlds, one seal shone brighter than the others. A world carved with oceans and continents that looked disturbingly familiar. Earth. Elena's voice broke into a whisper. Earth was chosen as one of the seals. Sarah's grip on her rifle tightened. "You're saying Earth itself was part of this war? And we never knew?" "The seal wasn't meant for us," Elena said. "It was left behind, hidden in our soil, waiting, and we just broke it." The chamber trembled again. Cracks ran across the floor circle, glowing with blue fire. The statue at the edge shifted, its stone arms slowly rising. Its mouth opened, and the same deep alien voice filled the dome. "The swarm is free. The swarm will come. Your world is marked." The shadows around the chamber stirred violently. Dozens of white eyes blinked open, surrounding them. Sarah raised her rifle, firing at the nearest one. "We're leaving, now!" But the ruin had other plans. The floor circle split apart, revealing a pit of endless black beneath. From the abyss rose hands, massive, skeletal, made of smoke and light. They reached for the explorers, their whispers turning into screams. Daniel stumbled backward, nearly falling into the pit. His ears rang with the voice of the statue, mocking him again and again. "You doomed your species. You doomed your species." "Shut up," he shouted, his voice cracking. He fired his pistol into the air, bullets sparking off the stone. "Shut up," but the voice only laughed. Sarah pulled him up, dragging him toward a narrow tunnel that had opened on the far side of the dome. "Move! Move!" Elena clutched her broken scanner, her eyes wild. "It's not just a signal to space," she said, breathlessly. "This place, it's a beacon. The moment the seal broke, it screamed across the stars. The swarm knows exactly where we are." "How long?" Sarah demanded, shoving her forward. Elena shook her head. "I don't know. Days, maybe. Weeks if we're lucky. but they're already coming. The ground shook again, stronger this time. The pit widened, black tendrils spilling out, snaking toward them like living chains. Jacob's scream still haunted. Their ears. The memory of how easily the shadows had taken him. This time, they didn't wait to see what the tendrils would do. They ran. The tunnel twisted as before, the ruin shifting to trap them. The walls narrowed, the ceiling groaned. Dust, falling in choking clouds. Their flashlights flickered, fighting against the darkness. Behind them, the whispers grew louder. The shadows poured into the tunnel, crawling along the walls like liquid death. Daniel's lungs burned, his chest heaved. But guilt weighed heavier than exhaustion. Every step, every heartbeat, he knew it was his fault. If Earth fell, it would be because of his laugh, his joke, his kiss. At last, the tunnel spat them out into another chamber, smaller, quieter, but not safe. The walls here were lined with sarcophagi, alien coffins standing upright, each holding a figure shaped like the Watcher statues. Some were intact, others were cracked, empty. Elena's breath caught. These aren't statues, they're soldiers, Watchers in stasis. Sarah's eyes darted over them. Then wake them. We'll need an army. Elena shook her head violently. No, don't you understand? The Watchers aren't alive. They're constructs, tied to the seals. This one only woke because its seal was broken. The others, she trailed off, her face pale. The others may already be gone. A sudden bang echoed down the tunnel behind them. Shadows poured into the chamber like a tide. Daniel raised his pistol with trembling hands. His voice was hoarse. Then it's just us. The whispers surged, filling the chamber. And in that moment, every one of them understood the truth. They hadn't just uncovered a ruin. They had lit the match for the end of the world. The chase. The chamber of sleeping Watchers shook like a living heart. Dust fell from the ceiling in choking clouds, the glowing veins of blue light running faster across the walls, pulsing like blood. The swarm's whispers were deafening now, echoing from every corner, chanting in languages the human tongue could not shape. The explorers stood frozen, caught between awe and terror. Behind them, the shadows crawled into the chamber like a flood. Dozens of white eyes blinked open in the dark. The coffin-like sarcophagi rattled, their stone lids grinding as if the Watchers themselves were struggling to rise. Sarah was the first to move. She fired her rifle into the shadows, the muzzle flash, lighting up the chamber. Run! We're out of time. They sprinted, boots pounding against the shaking stone. The chamber floor cracked under their feet, glowing fissures spilling blue fire. Coffins toppled, some smashing open to reveal empty husks of stone. Others opened halfway, releasing skeletal hands that reached blindly before crumbling to dust. Daniel stumbled, nearly falling into one of the glowing cracks. Elena yanked him back with strength born of terror. Keep moving, she screamed. But the ruin was alive now, shifting against them. Tunnels twisted, walls closing like jaws. The path they had taken before was gone, swallowed by stone. New paths opened ahead, but they looked wrong. Too narrow, too crooked, like veins leading deeper into a body. Which way? Daniel shouted. Sarah's jaw clenched. Forward, always forward. They plunged into a new tunnel, chased by the sound of collapsing stone and the shrieks of the shadows. The air grew hotter, the blue veins glowing brighter, almost blinding. The whispers grew louder, sharper, as though the swarm was no longer far away but pressing right against the walls, eager to break through. Then came the machines. From the walls themselves, metal arms unfolded, jointed, spiked, glinting in the blue light. They reached for the explorers, slamming into the stone floor, blocking their path. One arm shot forward, grabbing Jacob's fallen flashlight from the ground and crushing it to powder. Another nearly skewered Daniel's leg. Sentinels, Elena cried. Automated defenses. Not defending us, Sarah snapped, firing at one. Sparks flew as the bullets tore into its metal joints, but another arm rose immediately to replace it. The tunnel was alive with moving machines now, arms and blades and claws striking from every side. The explorers weaved and ducked, firing when they could, running when they couldn't. One of the claws grazed Elena's back, ripping her suit open. She stumbled, gasping, but Sarah dragged her forward. "Stay with me." Daniel's mind reeled. The whispers clawed at him, telling him to stop, to surrender, that it was pointless. Every step was heavier, as if guilt itself was chains on his legs, but he forced himself to keep running. Ahead, the tunnel opened into a vast bridge of stone suspended over a black abyss. The bridge stretched far across the chamber, the other side barely visible in the flickering light. Below, the abyss churned, with smoke and moving shapes, tens of thousands of white eyes glowing like stars in an ocean of shadow. Elena's breath caught. It's not just echoes, they're here. Pieces of the swarm are already here. The bridge shuddered as they ran onto it. The shadows below screamed, their voices rising into a storm. Hands of smoke rose from the abyss, clawing at the bridge. Halfway. Across, a section of the bridge cracked and fell, stone crashing into the void. Sarah grabbed Elena and leapt across the gap. Daniel hesitated, staring into the endless dark, his stomach turning. A hand grabbed his ankle, cold, burning, endless. He screamed, kicking wildly. The shadow tried to pull him down, its grip like iron. He clawed at the stone, his fingers bleeding. "Help! Help!" Sarah turned, lunging back, seizing his arm. She pulled with everything she had. Elena fired her pistol into the smoke hand, and for a moment, the creature dissolved enough for Daniel to break free. He collapsed onto the bridge, sobbing. Sarah dragged him to his feet. "Move or you die here." They staggered forward, the bridge crumbling behind them. The abyss howled, thousands of voices screaming in rage. At last, they reached the other side, collapsing into a wide platform. The walls here were covered in new carvings, ones that burned brighter than the others. A map of the galaxy sprawled across the stone, each star glowing faintly. 7 points burned like fire across it. Elena's scanner buzzed, half dead, but still working. She stared at the glowing map, her heart sinking. These are the seals. The Watchers placed them across the galaxy. Her hand trembled as she pointed. And this one was Earth. The light of Earth's seal flickered weakly, then went dark. Sarah's stomach dropped. "Then it's done? The swarm is free?" "No," Elena whispered. "Not fully. 6 seals remain, but now they know the path. Earth is the doorway." Before anyone could respond, the platform trembled again. A new statue rose from the floor, massive, armored, its stone face split with cracks of blue fire. Unlike the others, this one was not silent. It moved. Stone arms unfolded, stone chest rising and falling with a breath that was not breath. Its head turned, eyes glowing like suns. The statue spoke, its voice a roar that shook the chamber. Seal broken. Enemy returning. Initiating purge. The explorers stared in shock as the statue raised one massive arm, summoning a spear of light. Elena's face went white. "It's not here to protect us. It's here to erase us." The statue stepped forward, shaking the bridge with every move. Behind it, the shadows poured into the chamber, screaming. They were trapped, between a Watcher that saw them as enemies and a swarm that wanted to consume them. And Daniel knew, with a sick weight in his chest, that the statue was right. They were the enemy now. They had broken the seal, and there was no place left to run. The cosmic countdown. The Watcher advanced, each step booming like thunder. The spear of light in its hand burned brighter than their flashlights, humming with energy that made the explorer's skin crawl. Sarah fired at it out of desperation, bullets sparking uselessly against the stone armor. "Run!" she screamed. But there was nowhere to run. Behind them, the shadows poured onto the platform, claws scraping the stone. Before them, the Watcher raised its spear, preparing to strike. For a single frozen moment, Daniel thought, "This is it. This is how we die." But then, the Watcher stopped, its head tilted as if listening to something far away. The glow in its eyes pulsed, syncing with the rumble of the ruin itself. Then, in its deep, alien voice, it spoke again. "Signal sent. Countdown begins. Enemy inbound." The spear vanished in a flash of light, and the watcher turned, walking back into the wall as though sinking into water. The stone sealed shut behind it. The explorers stood in silence, panting, their ears ringing from the echo of its words. Countdown. Enemy inbound. Elena's scanner flickered weakly, displaying alien symbols she didn't fully understand. She translated. In a trembling whisper, it transmitted a message, a timer. The swarm is on the way, and now the whole galaxy knows it. Daniel's blood ran cold. How long? She stared at the scanner, then looked at him with haunted eyes. Days. Maybe less. Earth. The first echoes far away, on Earth's orbit, satellites picked up a strange pulse. At first it was dismissed as noise, interference from deep space. But then the pulse repeated. Stronger, sharper. Signals flooded into Earth's atmosphere, bouncing off every satellite, hijacking frequencies. Radio stations crackled with whispers no human language could form. Military radar screens lit up with patterns they had never seen before. Shapes that weren't natural. And above the planet, deep in the black, something answered. An object the size of a city slipped through the void. Its shape was impossible, shifting like liquid metal, its surface rippling with thousands of white eyes. It did not move with engines. It drifted like hunger itself had grown a body. Earth's defenses did not see it yet, but it was already watching. Back, in the ruins, the explorers ran again, desperate to find a way out. The tunnels twisted and shook, the ruin tearing itself apart from within. Every step was a battle. The floor split beneath them, smoke hands clawed at their legs, machines struck from the walls. At last, they stumbled into a chamber they recognized. The entry hall, where they had first seen the statue. The same one Daniel had kissed. It stood silent now, its glowing eyes fixed on them. Its mouth cracked open one last time. You doomed your species, but you may yet choose how it ends. The explorers froze. What do you mean? Sarah demanded, raising her rifle. The statue's voice rumbled like a storm. The swarm comes for Earth, you cannot stop it. You cannot fight it, but you can choose. Sacrifice yourselves to seal the breach and or return to warn your world and let it burn. The chamber shook violently, dust falling in sheets. The ruin was collapsing. Elena's face went pale. It wants us to close it again, to use us as the seal. Daniel's stomach turned, his voice cracked. You mean die here? Yes, Elena said. If we sacrifice ourselves, maybe the seal will reform. But then Earth never knows the danger. They'll be blind when the swarm comes again. Sarah's jaw clenched. If we escape, Earth will have time to prepare, maybe fight, maybe win. Elena shook her head. No one wins against the swarm. The ground split apart beneath them. The statue's eyes dimmed and the chamber began to collapse entirely. Decide. The voice boomed. The world awakens. At the same moment, Earth's leaders met in panic. Scientists confirmed the impossible. The signal from the desert ruins had not only been heard on Earth, it had been heard across the stars. Telescopes tracked hundreds of faint distortions at the edge of the solar system, growing stronger by the hour. Military commanders shouted over each other. Nations accused one another of sabotage, of secret weapons. Satellites failed one by one, fried by signals that whispered in alien voices. Civilians looked to the night sky and saw strange new stars, stars that weren't stars at all. The final. Run inside the collapsing ruin, the explorers had no time left. The ceiling caved in chunks, smashing to the ground. Shadows poured from the cracks, screaming with joy. Sarah grabbed Elena and Daniel, dragging them toward the faint glow of daylight, seeping through a collapsing tunnel. We're not dying here, not like this. Elena resisted, tears streaking her face. If we leave, Earth is finished, don't you understand? The swarm will come for billions. Our lives are nothing compared to that. Daniel stopped, torn in two. His chest heaved, his mind racing. The statue's words echoed again. You may yet choose how it ends. Was it true? Could his death, their deaths, save the world? Or was the Watcher only using them, feeding them lies to trap them here forever? The tunnel groaned, the last chance of escape shrinking by the second. Sarah screamed over the roar of the collapsing ruin. Choose now. Daniel looked back at the statue one last time. Its eyes burned into him, heavy with judgment. You doomed your species. He clenched his fists, jaw tight, torn between guilt and the instinct to survive. Behind him, the shadows surged. Closer, their whispers turning into a single clear voice. We are coming. The explorers dove through the tunnel as the ruin collapsed behind them. Daylight seared their eyes as they tumbled onto the desert sand, coughing, broken but alive. Behind them, the ruin sank into the earth, the last echo of the statue's voice fading into silence. They had chosen escape, and somewhere in the blackness of space, the swarm smiled. Humanity's choice. The desert was quiet. Too quiet. The explorers crawled out of the collapsing ruin, coughing and covered in dust. The sun burned above them, hot and cruel, but for the first time in hours they felt fresh, air on their faces. The ruin behind them groaned like a dying beast sinking into the sand, its blue veins of light flickering and fading. Daniel lay on the ground, his chest heaving. The weight of the world pressed on him heavier than the desert sun. He wanted to believe they had survived. He wanted to believe that crawling into the light meant they had won. But he knew the truth. They hadn't escaped. They had unleashed. Sarah pushed herself to her feet, rifle still clutched in her shaking hands. Her eyes scanned the horizon. We have to reach the ship, now. Elena staggered beside her, clutching her scanner like a lifeline. Its cracked screen glowed with faint alien symbols. She stared at it, her face pale. It's already started, she whispered. Daniel forced himself to look. The scanner showed a map of the solar system. At its edge, glowing red points flickered, multiplying, moving. The swarm was already coming. Earth awakens, on Earth. Night had fallen. But the sky was no longer the same. People in cities looked up and gasped as stars shifted unnaturally. Strange. New lights blinked in patterns no constellation had ever known. The news called it an anomaly. Scientists whispered it was impossible. In military command centers, alarms blared. Satellites reported unidentified objects entering the system, their numbers growing by the hour. Every transmission was jammed by whispers, inhuman voices bleeding. Through radios, televisions, even cell phones, the swarm was speaking, and every human ear heard it. We are coming. The survivor's burden. The explorers reached their ship, hidden among the dunes. It was battered from the sandstorms, but still functional. Sarah forced the hatch open and pushed them inside. The ship's systems roared to life, the hum of engines echoing like a heartbeat. Elena sat at the console, hands shaking as she tried to stabilize the scanner. It's everywhere, she whispered. The signal didn't just go out, it spread, like wildfire. Every seal across the galaxy knows it's been broken. The swarm has the path. Sarah slammed her hand against the wall. Then we warn Earth. We tell them everything. They'll prepare. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Prepare? For that? She gestured at the scanner. You can't prepare for shadows that eat stars. Daniel sat in silence. His guilt was a weight heavier than stone. Every breath was a reminder. He had kissed it. He had broken it. He tried to speak, but the words stuck in his throat. Sarah noticed his silence and grabbed his shoulder. You're not the only one at fault. We all chose to keep running. We all chose to escape. But Daniel shook his head, his eyes haunted. I was the joke. I made the choice. This is on me. The countdown, the ship's comms sparked with static, then cleared. Earth Command's voice filled the cabin, panicked, desperate. This is Earth Central. All explorers return immediately. Repeat, return immediately. Unknown fleet detected near. Neptune orbit. Numbers. Uncountable. Defensive measures failing. Civilian panic spreading. Do you copy? Sarah answered, her voice steel. This is Team Argus. We copy. We have information, critical information. The swarm is real. Repeat. The swarm is real. We broke the seal. There was silence on the line. Then a voice whispered, "Not from Earth, not from the comms, but from inside their minds." "We hear you," Daniel screamed, clutching his head. Elena dropped the scanner, sparks flying. Sarah gritted her teeth, trying to resist the voice. The swarm had found them. Humanity's choice. The ship broke from the desert, rising into the night sky. Beneath them, the ruins collapsed entirely, swallowed by sand. Above them, the stars glowed brighter, unnatural, alive with watching eyes. Elena's voice trembled. "They'll reach Earth in hours, maybe less. There's only one way left. We can't fight them, but we can still seal the breach." Sarah turned, her face pale. "You mean?" Elena nodded. "A sacrifice. If we fly back into the ruins, if we merge with the Watcher system, maybe the seal can reform. It might trap us with them forever. But Earth would live." Silence filled the ship. Sarah's hands trembled on the controls. "Or we go home. We warn everyone. Give humanity a chance to fight." "Fight?" Elena laughed bitterly, tears streaming down her face. "Against that?" She pointed to the scanner where hundreds of red points glowed like fireflies swarming toward Earth. Daniel sat quietly, his eyes dark. The voice of the statue burned in his mind. "You may yet choose how it ends." He stood slowly, his voice steady, for the first time. "This is my fault. I'll make the choice." Sarah turned sharply. "Don't you dare. We do this together." Daniel shook his head. "No, you escape. You warn Earth. Let them prepare, even if it's hopeless. But me, I'll go back, I'll seal it, I'll buy time." Elena grabbed his arm, desperate. "You'll die." Daniel met her eyes, and for once there was no joke, no smirk, only resolve. "Then I'll die laughing at myself. But at least Earth won't die with me." The final descent. The ship split its course. Sarah and Elena screamed at him, begged him to reconsider, but Daniel overrode the controls. He strapped himself into the escape pod, locking the hatch. The pod broke away, falling back toward the desert ruin. Flames lit the night as it descended, vanishing into the sandstorm. In the silence of the ship, Sarah and Elena watched the scanner. For a moment, just a moment, one of the red points flickered, dimmed, paused. Daniel's voice echoed in their comms, calm and steady. "If my species falls, it won't fall easy." And then the signal cut. Earth's sky hours later. Earth's night turned to fire. The swarm arrived not as ships, but as a tide of living darkness blotting out the stars. Thousands of eyes glowed in the heavens. The world shook as cities panicked, weapons fired, prayers rose. On the horizon, the sky split open, and the first wave descended. And far beneath the sand, in the ruins of an ancient prison, one man screamed, against the dark, sealing himself with the swarm. For now, Earth still breathed, but the countdown had begun.